So, welcome everyone to the Wang Shack.
The old people's Wang Shack, to be fair.
Don't judge us. It's been 2 very long days up to here. We went through all your requests. We did check out a ton of gear.
I'd say like 90% of what was around.
Yeah. A ton of interesting talks. Caught up on some rumors, some not quite confirmed stuff as well. And I would say let's dive straight into it. Huizingbelt. Darius, you were the one to test them.
Yes, I've drove both Huizingbelts. Both of them are an absolute yes. I'd absolutely buy both sets. Sprint's a bit more on the cheap side, but like it's easier to get because it's not that hefty bit of a sum. But like for normal load cell pedals, for me, the Huizingbelts are the go-to. And for hydraulic pedals, the Huizingbelts are also the go-to for me. So absolute yes for the Huizingbelts from my point of view.
They do hold up against anything you tested as well?
I prefer them to the Invicta. They're not the active pedals from Simracing, but I prefer them to the Invicta.
Well, this has to be said, Darius prefers more treble, which was really important. I can understand that. But I can confirm. I just tested the sprints, and I do agree with you. It was just a smooth experience overall. And never forget, you can adjust them to your liking anyways. Right, let's continue on. ADAC. Well, an interesting one because they do, as ADAC always does, and launched a new product right for the Simracing Expo.
They did, and some of you I'm specifically looking at one Norwegian, were very looking forward to that, and I can tell you something about that right now. Yes, it's the Invicta wheel, the one with the screen. So the good thing about the Invicta wheel is the modularity you get. So with the shifter paddles and the extra paddles on the back and the handles that you can exchange to whatever you want. That's all fun and games, and you can customize all the knobs and whatever. But it's a good wheel. I'm not saying it isn't. It's a good wheel, but compared to a Bavarian Simtech or even a GSI, it lacks the quality for the price tag. So just from the tactile feeling, like the shifters are a bit meh. They don't have the nice crispy clack that you get from the expensive wheels. The clutches are okay, but not great. The rotary encoders are too light on the spin, so maybe that's a double input on those. The rotary encoders are nice, the thumb encoders not so much. The screen resolution's good, so that's actually good. The screen looks great, and the handling of the wheel, so the haptics, how you drive the wheel with your all hand placement, thumb placement like that, that's great. But I'm a bit disappointed about the quality for the price tag. So either they have to up the quality or lower down the price tag.
Well, we all know ADAC, probably the second one will be the first step once they can do it. But for those who are a bit like, that is nitpicking, I would have agreed before the Simracing Expo, but this Simracing Expo has been a lot about wheels, and we had a lot in hand.
I've technically driven everything. I've driven the Cosworth wheel for 12,000 euros.
And I can tell you that there is a distinct difference, and you can certainly feel and tell when you've got in hand. And if I pay that amount of money for a wheel, I want it
has to be perfect.
Yeah, it has to 100% feel at home. And that is something that this one lacked.
Yeah. It's a nice wheel all in all, but it's not something where I immediately say, I buy that.
Still, ADAC would remain my relative recommendation if you are looking to buy, like you're just getting rid of your first wheel and stuff, and now you're looking for something to progress further. It's a good way into it, especially with the upgrade path. And now is the interesting part, because you asked us to ask a question, and we did. We spoke to the CEO of ADAC.
He did, I just drove.
And we got the confirmation. 2025, they're gonna bring out a new line. and that new line is going to cater to the absolute entry-level DD. So we're going to see probably a 5 to 6 Newton meter base coming out, and even cheaper pair of pedals. So we're probably going to look at hull sensors. We're not too sure if it's going to be load cell, hull, or whatever. Probably some kind of attachment. So you will still have the upgrade path on the pedals. And you probably can also expect that the wheelbase will have USB pass-through and stuff, just, you know, to be compatible with all the integration from the get-go. And yeah, it's a good thing because ADAC Sofa really pushed the competition.
Yeah, definitely. I drove a full set of Invicta, so I got the Invicta wheel attachment, I got the Invicta base, I got an Invicta set of pedals, and to be fair, the wheel felt nice. We talked about the wheel a lot. I like the wheelbase. I like the feeling of the wheelbase. The only thing I don't like about the wheelbase is, despite the higher slew rate, that the Simracube feels better. That's the thing where I'm a bit meh. It should feel better technically, but maybe that's software limitation because they're using Simracube software and they don't want to. No idea, don't want to break out any conspiracy theories. It's a very good wheelbase. Nothing to say on that. It's only subpar to the big Simracubes, in my opinion. Only my opinion. And now to my personal elephant in the room, which would be the Invicta pedals. The Invicta pedals, throttle is great. The clutch is an absolute marvel. The clutch really feels like very, very close to a road car clutch, like exactly how it should be. But the brake, the hydraulic brake on the Invicta is something you'd have to try and you'd have to like, because you've got adjustable throw and everything, adjustable elastomers and all of that, but there's one key thing, no matter how much you alter in the Invicta, that bothers me, and that's when you press the brake, at some point you just reach a wall, because it measures with hydraulic pressure. So you can push the pedal even harder and it will register more pressure, but you don't get any feedback on how much pressure you apply, because the pedal is technically already compressing a fluid, so there won't be any more resistance the more you push. So for me, in feedback, that's a bit of a downgrade, and I'd say they're subpar to the Huizenfeld Ultimates, but they can be a real great set of pedals, but you have to like them. You have to like them. It's nothing for me. Some people prefer the Invictus. The load cells on the Fortis are great, so the Forte pedals are great, but the hydraulic damper is a difficult topic, if you ask me, or the hydraulic cylinder. It's not a damper, it's an entire hydraulic system. That's a bit difficult for me, and I'd say if you plan on getting a set of Invicta, drive one first to see if you actually like it.
All right.
Yeah, that's ADAC. Also LMP2 car, very loud when you're standing next to it.
All right, I would say on to the next one.
On to the next one.
Right, this wouldn't be the right segment if I wouldn't do it. Moser. So, and Darius can confirm this, I was like a little dog, waiting for a treat.
Yeah, we were running around and looking for the Moser stand, and the man was getting very desperate when he didn't saw a big sign saying like Moser.
And you all had the teaser from me with the Lamborghini wheel, and you've seen the new releases probably on Instagram or whatnot. And yeah, let me tell you what Moser did. They partnered up with Case King and had Case King display their newest features. Well, just for one difference, there were no features. So we had the pleasure not to test the new active pedals, and we had the pleasure not to see a new Lamborghini wheel. Instead, we just had the possibility to do some comparison of the stuff that there's there.
He was a very sad puppy.
Yeah, and some interesting stuff came out of this. So if you're currently running on Moser and you're considering buying a new wheel, let me tell you something. There is a distinct progress within the last releases. And what is the last wheel that they released apart from the Bentley wheel? This Bentley mock-up, it should be the KS.
Yes.
And on from the KS, anything that comes after has a distinct difference with its tactile feelings. Like the KS is by far the better wheel to their FSR wheel, which is the Formula style wheel with a screen integrated.
SF1000 Thrustmaster.
And as on the price, it was like 700 euros for the screened F1 wheel versus the 309 euros for the KS. And the KS is just simply the better wheel, and not even by a margin, but by a lot.
By a long shot, yeah.
So if you're considering going with Moser at the moment,
Just don't buy the FSR. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, no, that's a waste of money. But get yourself the KS wheel. You will be happy with it. As on the price, it's bang for the buck. But if you're looking to upgrade yourself, I would go third party. And I'm saying this as somebody who religiously drives Moser.
Moser merchant.
All right, yeah.
Active pedals.
Oh, yeah, good hint. So, in some side notes, when we were talking with other influential people around there, we got a first hint upon the pricing when it comes to the pedals. Now, take this with a pinch of salt.
First thing is, the pedals weren't there.
Yeah, take that with a pinch of salt. The pedals will come in at a price tag of around 1,000 euros. Now, we don't know if that is individual.
Two sets, two pedals, or three pedals?
Or two pedal set. We do think it will be a pedal set to stay competitive against Simracing. If they don't, that would be ridiculous, because they will not be able to do something that Simracing pulled off when it comes to the feeling of it. It's just Moser is a cheaper ripoff, let's face it. They will hate me for this.
Oh no more sponsorship for you.
But nevertheless, if it comes as a two pedal set with 1,000 euros or something above, it will be reasonable. If it will be individual for 1,000, then oh my dear God.
So the informant we spoke to basically just said like, don't expect below 1,000, and we don't know, like Finkler said, if that's one pedal a set or even a three pedal set.
Yep.
So there's nothing concrete about this one other than it won't be cheap.
There you have it. That's Moser up. On to the next one. So another one of the community you guys basically asked for was keep controls. And while I was most likely stuck somewhere waiting to get into a simulator and to actually drive, Darius was the one to get his hands on some wheels.
Yeah, to be fair, I left him standing waiting for the Simracing hub to drive the active pedals, and the Cube Controls booth was just like next to it. So I stepped over, took my hands on some of the wheels, and I've got to say, they're nice. You can't deny that they're nice. The Mercedes wheel, for example, is very, very good. Like, that's really good from quality-wise and all of that, but it's a bit expensive for what it is. So given there's no screen or anything, it's just like one of their normal GT wheels with no screen. You're looking at above £1,000 or 1,000 euros, whatever your currency is. But I think it was 1,200 euros or something like that. And for me, that's a lot to ask for a wheel that doesn't have a screen or anything fancy about it. The clutch feels okay. That's through all of the wheels that I've touched. The shifters are quite nice. I've got to say the shifters are quite nice. The buttons are okay. The rotary encoders are okay. And the thing about those Cube Controls wheels is they have two of those toggle switches, like two-way switches on the top. So in the top arch and then the top arch left and right. So those are just about, I'd say, 5 to 10 millimeters. I don't even think 10, like really, really, really slight bit of those are sticking out of the cavity. So they're easy to miss. I was missing them with my finger. I had to use my fingernail to actually flick them in the cavity. So considering most of us are driving with gloves, especially with those expensive wheels, I don't know if that's any merit in that. That's what I don't like about the Cube Controls. But other than that, the quality feels good. It's one of the better wheels. I'd say I'd rate it over the ADAC Over the Invicta, definitely, especially the Honda-esque Super GT wheel with the new screen and all of that. That's really nice, but I don't like the rubbery feeling of them. So the actual grip rubber, I don't like that. But other than that, the wheel was fine, and I'd rate it over the Invicta. As for all the other for all the other wheels, like the ones without the screen, are a lot cheaper, and I'd go for them for Cube controls because they're really, really good. And just for adding a screen, like adding 600 euros doesn't seem like all the merit to me on Cube controls.
Yeah, there is not more I could add. So that is Cube controls wrapped for you. On to the next one. So we already talked about the Moser active pedal, but we also tested the OG.
Yeah, we've been to Simracube and driven multiple Simracube stuff. So let's get the elephant out of the way later. First, the wheelbases. They're still the OG. They still make, in my opinion, they make the best wheelbase. Smoothest force feedback, greatest feeling, greatest buildup of torque. So, in my opinion, it's still the best wheelbase there is.
I have to agree, really. You usually get all these opinions. I feel like it's a lot of simping about a piece of tag that is just overrated until you get your hands on some. And it is a huge difference, and probably also because those two guys really did the homework and set up the sims accordingly with the wheelbases and everything. But nevertheless, the experience you got on their booth was top-notch. The rigs were properly adjusted, the wheelers. It was really a drop-in drive and focus on what you wanted to focus on, like the force feedback and whatnot. Absolutely awesome. And I can only agree, like, it's an absolutely different experience.
And now to the elephant in the room. The most expensive piece of kit you could have on your rig, the Simracube active pedals. Are they any good, Mr. Fengler?
I'd cut my leg off to have one. It's top notch. It's not only, it doesn't feel like they produced the first time ever something. Not at all. It feels like they have been building active pedals for the last 10 years, and this is the pinnacle and perfection of what they came up with. It is. Imagine this. This was the use case that I was basically testing out in a showcase. They had an extra booth where you could sit down, or extra rig where you could sit down, and there was a guy inside of you with the modulation software. Mm-hmm. And it's not only that you could modulate, well, there's usual stuff. You can do it as you're going. So you could be halfway on the brakes and you decide, well, you feel this is too soft, yeah? This is 40 kilograms, this is too soft. Let's make it fucking 80. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? He's actively starting to push you back because at this pressure point, you're just far more up in that very curve. Switching instantly from the flat curve to the more progressive curve. And it's not that your trigger points in the system get changed, as it's so often the case, because the brake feels the same. But if you change it there, the behavior changes a ton. And just driving them, having this feedback of when does the ABS kick in, it is so much information, valuable information, and so much immersion that you get. Would I go now and buy myself a pair? Mostly not. Like, it's still a ridiculously high price. There is a reason it's priced like this, because they're the forerunners, and it's an incredible piece of tech. But these are the last pedals you will always, ever, never need.
Yeah, definitely. To my experience from the Simracube pedals, like Christian said, I think they're 1,500 a piece or something like that. If I don't get my memory wrong, or 1,500 for, I can't be 1,500 for two. It has to be 1,000 odd for one pedal. Yeah. So, and just for the throttle and the brake. So the throttle pedal has this nice progressive tension, or was built to that. And all of that is completely modifiable by software. There's not a single screw you need to turn. You can do all of this on the fly with like a second screen and your mouse and keyboard next to you, and then you can start like calibrating the pedals. What sport do you drive? So different setting for Formula One, different setting GT, different setting for LMP cars or hypercars, or for like normal road cars, even motorcycles. Whatever you want, you can build multiple profiles for them, for each pedal individually, for each zone individually, for the rumble individually. It's like ridiculous. The guy from Simracing who I've talked with said to me, like, you can do everything on this pedal. There's no need to buy anything other than this because you can do all of this on the fly. And the throttle pedal has a guilty pleasure simulator, as I'd like to call it, because I was driving AC Evo on that, and we get to AC Evo after that, don't worry. The thing is, when you press the throttle in a normal road car, you get the vibrations coming from the engine bay, from the gearbox, from the drivetrain. So all of that's coming through the engine bearings, the gearbox bearings, all of that natural vibration of combustion. You get that on the throttle pedal in the active pedals. It's a feature I'd never thought I need or want, but now that I've seen it, I hate myself for not wanting to lose it, because it's absolutely brilliant in feedback. It's like driving a normal road car on the throttle. It's not only increasing the resistance, but it also gives you some feeling to it. It's not like it's a dull pedal where you just push down and then you leave it there.
And there's something to put into perspective, because this is something you might get wrong in you listening to this. This nerding out about having this on-the-fly change, and it sounds like all the in-house software. Just literally anything you can do, because you can always go and just change the graphs, and yeah, that's all nice and cool that you can do this on your Heisenberg pedals, on your Invicta pedals, on your Moser pedals. Doesn't matter. But what does matter is that you get the instant change in feel. So what you're basically doing at the click of a button is exchanging the springs in your pedals, exchanging the elastomers in your pedals, having a magic button in there that allows you to have a certain pressure point perhaps react a little bit different, because I don't know why you want it that way, but you can do it. And then on top of that, have a rumble motor that is not producing just a few frequencies, but anything you fucking like. So it's really this. And they're pre-programmed. Like, you obviously can go free, but if you don't want to go full ham and test around until you find the perfect solution, it really adds to the immersion. Because obviously, if you sit in a Formula car, you will smash the brakes much harder. You want to have more resistance, because it's this more progressive braking. And then you go into a GT car, and the GT car has ABS, so you more likely mash the pedal to a certain degree. You trail it different, so you want a different progressive curve, and it just really adds. It's insane. And they also showed us this difference in between what a linear pedal would react like
to a progressive
one. And you step on that linear pedal and you would not tell that you were just pushing 40, 60, 80 kilograms. Whereas the moment they switched to progressive, you were like, oh, now it feels more sensible. Much more sensible. So yeah, this is a lot of nerding, but this is probably the coolest piece of tech released in a long time, even if they are already quite a bit on the market.
And the thing about the Simracing tech guys is, especially like one or two guys that were there, I think were from the development team of the active pedals, because the guy I drove it with on Friday evening was asking me like a million questions after 7 minutes of AC Evo on how do I like the feel of the pedal, do I miss anything from the pedal, what feel does it give me, what do I want, what do I need, what's too much, what's not enough. And to be fair, from those pedals, I'd say the only thing I kind of miss is, because it's on a normal slide, so the pedal sits over here and it's going over a slide like that. So it's just moving in a linear fashion. There's no like angular movement to it or anything. And the only thing I miss on the Simracing pedals is the angular movement. So some mechanical movement that I feel in my foot, that's the only thing I kind of miss, but you kind of tend to forget it after like 7 minutes.
Yep.
I'd say it's something that's different about it, but you can get used to it. It's something I'd like to have, but it's not something I need.
Yeah, no, but that's a good point to conclude. Probably, it's something to get used to, but it is something to get used to because we are used to something different.
Yeah.
So the only thing really I have to say is super positive about SimiCube. Amazing stuff. Pricey, but pricey for
Worth the money.
So on to the next one.
On to the next one.
Mamma mia.
Next topic, we're off to our favorite Italians. It's not the most asked topic, even though I expected it to be. It's Kunos.
Well, yeah, and Kunos has not been there in the sense of their own booth. They supplied, I think it was like 6 different exhibitors with their current builds of AC Evo.
I mean, to be fair, they were running around through all of the expo hall, like the entire time.
But
they were jumping from booth to booth.
But yeah, I basically had the chance to test AC Evo on most different kit. And it was the wisest decision to do because there was the queues were massive up on AC Evo. So the hype is real, and we can now tell you a bit why the hype is real, because the takeaway was rather positive.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be probably like the longest segment because we're just going to guide you through our experiences. We all drove something different. Mike's not here, but Mike had the third experience, and we had like 3 scenarios to pick from. We had a short race, I think 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Not a very long race. Around Imola and the Porsche Cups on a track where it's getting dark. You had rain practice in an Alpine round Bathurst. Believe it or not, he's driven that, not me. And then you had the third experience, a dry Brands Hatch in a front-wheel drive Hyundai i30N. That was my experience.
So to start us out, Darius, what was your impression on the basic drive physics?
So the basic drive physics, the force feedback is quite nice. It's quite smooth, and given that we were like on pre-alpha stage, so I think version was 0181 or something like that. It's like really early in development, but the force feedback felt very smooth. The first thing I thought, well, that's a graphics issue, not a physics issue. The first thing I saw when I popped out of the menu, I was like, this looks great. Well, that's probably for it being around for a couple of years now. But compared to like AC, it's less muted. So AC feels a lot muted in the force feedback. I don't like the force feedback from AC. Compared to ACC, it's a lot smoother. You can definitely feel the game and the engine was developed for like smooth driving, and it's not like putting a racing game on an Unreal Engine. So it's less straining on the eyes, and it feels like a lot more fluent on the same amount of FPS that you drive ACC on, because the engine's much more fluid in the physics of driving, because the Unreal Engine's not developed for that. But back to the topic of driving. So I got in the Hyundai, I got out of the Brands Hatch, took down the first right-hander, and immediately I noticed something. Something that everyone who's related to front engine front-wheel drive front engine has experienced, and that's off-throttle oversteer. So lift off the throttle and the rear comes round because there's no weight on it, no pull on the front, and all the weight is basically pushing you inside the corner, so the rear gets light. They got that right. So they actually got the physics of a front-wheel drive, front-engined car right. It's unpredictable lift-off oversteer. You can correct it by pushing the brake and going on throttle, and that switching that till you're through the corner, alternating brake throttle, brake throttle, brake throttle. The steering response is great. You can feel all the surfaces, so if you touch the grass, you feel the wheel getting lighter, not having any grip. If you're going over a rumble strip on the outside, you can feel that. The only thing I'm missing a bit is the sharp the sharp end feedback that you get when you like drive over a curb's edge. So like the small,
Yeah.
you don't get that in the feedback yet, but I'd say this is because this is a very, very early stage. So I think till we get like release worthy or even beta worthy, I think there's gonna be a lot of changes. But honestly, for the 7 minutes that I drove, I mean technically 5.5, because after that the game crashed because alpha, I was positively blown away by the game. So despite my usual criticism of Kunos doing Kunos things, I was actually blown away by the state of the physics that the game offers. Like, it's really, really great. It drives really well. It drives better than ACC. So it feels closer to ACC than to AC, but it drives better than ACC because it's a lot smoother.
The experience overall could be described really as, it's evolution. It's the next step up from what
It's
they
Italian.
achieved.
He's told us it's evoluzione.
It's the step up from what they had the basis in for ACC, and I want to differ something. So I had the questionable opportunity to not only test it on the Simocube stuff or equipment, which it really felt nice on. Also on the lower end Moser, and I drove on an R9, so I was basically at home, and it was dull. There, the force feedback was just non-existent. This can be a setup issue, but this is what I mean. This game is like, don't get your hopes up too high. It's still Kunos. They can still mess up a lot, and it will take a good amount of time until everybody gets a flushed out experience. Just because on a high-end Simocube wheel, this was an absolute pleasure to drive, this might not be applicable once you get into your own hands. So keep that in mind. It needs setting up, it needs testing around, and probably a good bunch of fixes by Kunos themselves until everybody gets that kind of experience. Also, I can confirm that the impact or these high-end responses that you usually, or that you used to in other sims like ACC, especially obviously because it would be the direct comparison, or the more ultimate, there is no kick in the wheel. It's all super smooth, and almost, for me, I would say just even a touch too smooth, almost feels unnatural. But this is something that is
They will iron out later.
this is really a part of it. Will get to, or they will get to this once they really have the game out and probably a bit more time going over this. To the driving experience, you feel much more connected to the road, I would say. It's a case of you have an understanding through the wheel what the car is doing underneath you. The suspension is, as we are comparing this obviously to ACC, more predictable, behaves more natural when loaded, and they really understood. Now they did their homework, they understood the assignment, and produced the right thing with this. When it comes to rain, they had a nice little surprise for us, because Kunos did not go down the old ACC road where they just produce a dry line based on how many cars are there and how many laps have been driven. They did had an actual wet racing line. What does that mean? The track turned greasy, and I shit you not, you could tell the moment you went onto it, because you could feel the car slipping underneath you. That was the death of me on a couple of occasions, especially into Skyline.
Twice?
3 times, I think.
3 times?
Yeah, I spun myself a good amount there. But it's a good thing to see this, as frustrating as it was for me. They really went the proper route of simulation, and if that is a show and tell of what we're coming up to when it comes to simulating the track, I'm really impressed. Like, this could go down a very, very nice, a very nice road. Yeah. So what else is there to say? Graphics.
Before we go to the graphics, just something Mike threw in when they test the AC Evo. on, I think that was when you were on the Moser and during Bathurst. Mike pointed out that, for example, what everyone's expecting at the moment, like there's the fluid rain kind of flow, whatever you want to call it, on track. So the actual track condition. That's implemented in the physics yet, but it's not implemented in the graphics yet. So you don't see the line moving about a lot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just from what I saw.
You don't have a clear representation of where rubber would be on the track. Really, this is all I feel.
Yeah, and that's also what it looks like, or what Mike pointed out, is that you can't really see this. And another thing that Mike pointed out, I think that was when you were going down Skyline, Mike just pointed out from the way this feels and this looks graphics wise and how it drives and how smooth it is that it may be tailored to like open road, open world driving, just from the way how smooth it is. And Mike's got a point there. This feels like really, really, really smooth to just drive like, I don't know, 100 kilometers through the Italian countryside because you want to.
Well, yeah. But now back to the topic at hand.
The graphics.
So, point one, and that was a fairly important one, the Porsche had a display.
Yes, the Porsche had actually had numbers in the display.
And lightning effects are amazing. It was Mike to do on the Porsche Cup in fading light conditions. So he started on a simulated sundown and went into the dark within a matter of 8 minutes. And it's just something that was already nice on ACC, and it's just stepped up when you see the light breaking through on Imola through the trees above, and you have the sun rays coming through. And then later on, when it got dark and you had the light shining through your cockpit from the car behind you, and it's something that you don't realize as a driver so much, but once you were standing behind the person driving, it was insane with the light reflections going through your cockpit and into your mirrors, and amazing stuff. It's really good looking. I would not have expected from Kunos to build an engine that is
that beautiful,
really, yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, I didn't check out all of the specs they had for the PCs that were running AC Evo, but just from the graphic card sizes in those PCs, because they're all open and full of RGB and glass, because that gives you more processing power, we all know that. And just the size of the graphics card leads me to believe we're looking at 4080s, 4080 Ti's, or even 4090s. So I won't say this now, because back when it releases will be in a new generation, but just from the current generation of hardware, even like the last generation of hardware, this will be a very taxing thing. This will be very, very taxing, because the grass looks, I think this is the most realistic grass I've ever seen in a race sim.
Which is so important.
The grass is so clear, it's so dense, it looks very, very, very authentic. The rain, if you drive slow enough, you can see actual raindrops like they will normally disperse, and not like in ACC just pop, 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 pop on your windscreen. Like you can really see them falling. It's great. And the other thing, and we saw that in the Porsche Cup and the Logitech stand where we're standing next to it, and Owen pointed it out that it wasn't just that great and he can see the pixelation. But maybe that's just one thing, but from the i30N that I drove, the first thing I immediately noticed while looking around the monitor is how good and how sharp the reflections in the mirrors are. It's just like you're looking out through your cockpit. Like the same resolution that you have in the cockpit, you have that clarity on your mirrors. It's insane. It's really insane.
And then another thing that came up in regarding the graphics is it's obviously no Unreal Engine, and that leads to far less unwanted blur.
Yeah, it's a lot smoother on the ice. Like, it's not like an ACC when you drive it for 4 hours straight, or watch it for like 6 hours straight while driving and engineering at the same time. You have to step out or close your eyes for a minute because it's too taxing on the ice. No, it's like an iRacing. When you get in and you just drive, you like passively see everything. You don't have to concentrate that much on what's going around because the blur on ACC is that high. How's that car going to move? It's all very, very smooth. It's very easy on the eyes, which makes it a really good game for long drives, which is where the theory of the maybe open world driving sim comes from.
Yeah. And then to conclude this, we can really say they have done a good job on the physics. If this is the level that we can expect from other cars as well, that's very promising. The engine looks good. They have done their homework on this one as well. The weather feels realistic, better than an ACC. And then we were left with one of the last rumors regarding Kunos.
Oh yeah, we found a semi-professional accidental leaker of ACC information, name not to be named, who's told Mr. Fengler something very interesting secondhand. So don't get your knickers in a twist just yet. We don't know if this is the truth, but this is the secondhand rumor Mr. Fengler heard from that
And this
leaker.
Yeah, and that has been confirmed in talks with other people as well. Rumor has it, because people were like, yeah, the physics feel great in AC Evo. It's a shame that this doesn't come to ACC. But rumor has it, it will come. So, by the looks of it, there are two indicators to this. One, the SteamDB has been touched. Search for it on YouTube, you'll find videos going on about this and the theory that there is a patch coming. The second thing is that it looks like Kunos will transfer over the knowledge they now have about the suspension and how it should properly work to fix issues in ACC. And with it, we probably gonna get a new track. And that track was named to be Magnicore. This is obviously not validated. We don't have confirmation from Kunos itself. We probably will never get until the very day that this patch potentially comes. Treat this all as very grayish to almost more of speculation, because we did not have a word with Kunos on this. But that would be great.
Yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything we have on Guno Simulazioni.
So that was a long one.
Yeah, that was a long one. We're sorry about that one, but I think it was the most requested topic. Like,
It was the
individual perspectives, not from the votes, but everyone. Even while we were running around with the expo before we were doing this, we're doing this on like Saturday after the second day, and everyone was requesting just, how was AC Evo? Did you drive AC Evo? How does it feel? Please drive AC Evo. And that was probably the individual number one concern about that expo, is how was AC Evo?
AC Evo was the central piece of this Simracing Expo. All right, enough now of Kunos. On to the next one. So one of the also big requests, with almost 80% I think, was similar, and we gave them a visit, drove some of the rigs. Darius, your honest impression upon them?
Honestly, they look sturdy from the outside, and I think the aluminium mainframe is pretty sturdy. But with the seat slider and the seat that they offer, like from in-house, the in-house SimLab seat, that was flexing a bit. Like, you could actually, when I was braking, feel my spine coming out of the back of it. And with the adjustable pedal slider, which is quite nice when you have multiple people driving a rig, but there's also some inherent flex to that on the braking, which I didn't like. I don't want my pedal plate to flex. If my seat flexes because it's movable, it's fine. But with the double flex, flex-wise on the DD wheel, that was fine. I didn't detect any flex while turning, so that felt great. But the pedal plate, or the adjustable pedal plate, and the seat, especially the seat, was a bit low quality in my opinion. A bit too much flex for that amount of money.
Well, in all honesty, would oppose, because the price tag was like 800 for the complete bundle. So for 800 euros, you get
800 with seat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And slider.
Okay. I thought that was only just the rig without seat.
No, that is
Okay.
the entirety.
Okay.
And that's the thing. For around 800 euros, you get the aluminium rig, which is, as on the price, really absolutely fine. No hold back there. I would really consider not getting the seat slider. See, you are going to use your rig to your liking.
I wouldn't say the seat slider. I'd rather say leave away the pedal slider.
Yeah, but either way, you're going to build up the rig for yourself. So just build it up in a way that you are comfortable in it, and then just remove the wheel and get in and out. Because this will remove a bunch of the flex that you had, but you will not get it out of a bucket seat. Like with the seat, it is this give and take. It's okay, and it will serve you for long enough. But if you just invest a couple hundred euros more, you will get something that is way better. But other than that, they introduced us to a couple of new features and products.
Oh yeah, so we got to drive their very expensive like add-on wheels. So the W14 one and the 919 RSR. Both of them are above 2,000 euros. And I have to say, for above 2,000 euros, given the other stuff I've driven, I'm disappointed. Like quality-wise, feel-wise, for that amount of money, I expecting everything and I only got 3/4 of it. So I wouldn't directly go for that one. And were the pedals also made by them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they got an entire ecosystem in development. And we got to drive a new wheelbase from them. And the pedals I didn't even notice that they were theirs. The pedals were okay, not too bad.
It's a load cell pedal.
It's a load cell pedal. To quote Mr. Fengler from Track Racer, it's load cell pedals. Nothing majorly good. Nothing. I wouldn't say anything bad about it, but I can also don't say anything outstandingly good about them. And then there was the wheelbase. The wheelbase was running raw playthrough software. There was no filtering on it, nothing, no anything, just pure force feedback, straight motor through software into your hands. No filtering, no masking, nothing.
To put a perspective on this, they actually told us that they were on the brink of not even bringing this to the expo because they were so early in development that the motors they had now were not even prototypes. That was a case study.
They were case studies. Oh boy.
This is how early on this is. So this is not even to probably come out next year. But your impressions, because this was obviously not a home turf. This was iRacing.
Yeah, it was iRacing in a Formula One car. So as far out of my comfort zone as I can get. But honestly, like giving it a go without the masking or anything, just straight through force feedback. The force feedback was good. It's a really good baseline to start this, and I hope they get this right from the software perspective. Because if they do, this might actually be a gem. Because the normal force feedback, the straight through without any filtering or whatever, felt as good as some like 700 euro entry wheelbases.
Yep.
So I'd say their base non-software, like I think it was 27 Newton meters or 28, something like that.
26 it was.
26, yeah. So that was very high. And when I got in, the guy told me like if you crash, take your hands off your wheel. And I looked at him, I'm trying not to crash, thank you. But how much Newton meters is this running? I think so, like 12 or something like that. I look at him, mate, I'm crashing at 50 Newton meters all the time. I can handle this. And to be fair, those 12 Newton meters, unfiltered, unrefined, felt better than driving a CSLDD on 5 Newton meters. My honest opinion.
I can only add into this, I 100% agree. What was also quite interesting, or said differently, whoever is hoping now that they might release the new shit when it comes to any entry-level wheels, we are not looking at not wheels, but wheelbases. We are not looking at this. The numbers we got from them, they're looking at 3 different wheelbases to come out. One is going to be 15 Newton meters, one is going to be 26 Newton meters, and because the world doesn't need it, but will get it, it's the top line will be 39 Newton meters. So if you want to become a truck driver, a Euro truck simulator without any hydraulic steering aid, There you go. This is what we
this,
waited for.
This is like old, like steamboats, like cranking one of those massive metal wheels, massive metal valves.
This will probably be the first time that the Moser truck wheel will become viable because you have a bigger diameter to handle the torque.
Probably, but then again, I think they only want to top Simracube because the Simracube Ultimate has 38 Newton meters, so they want to put an extra Newton meter onto that.
Anyways, but it looks promising, but I think it's nothing we're gonna see really
in the next 2
refined.
years, 3 years.
Yeah, I would say
it's a
2
long way
years.
away.
It's gonna be 26 at least probably when it properly releases. So yeah, that was SimLab. Just to summarize, the aluminium rigs are no doubt a good entry point upon a nice sturdy aluminium rig. The seats are a bargain to come with them, but it comes with a drawback, and that is flex.
Why are you on the seat? We drove the RS seat or whatever, which is the same price but a lot more comfortable and a lot more rigid.
Yes, and we don't have RC in there. That's a good one. I think the SimLab seats should sit around 400 euros, give or take, purse 50 higher, purse 50 lower. And our seat is something, I'll throw a picture in if I can. Our seat is somewhere that we didn't have really on our radar, neither did you. It wasn't requested, but we just walked by and
we did it in the last 10 minutes before they closed, and we were like shopping around and trying to get in every seat we could find from different manufacturers to see how they were, because we both need to buy a racing bucket. And Fengler just jumped in on that, and he just fell back and looked at me like, I like this.
Yeah,
Why do I like this? I like this.
It was like coming home and throwing yourself on your couch. It was super comfortable, and the first thought, obviously, that you then had was like, okay, no, but this is gonna have flex. This is too much on the side of comfort, and we started pulling like idiots, and nothing. Zero fucking
He was rocking
flex.
in the chair, Mike was pulling the chair, and I was pulling the rig, and nothing happened.
So if you are looking for the best money to value combination, this could be the one. This could be really the one. So
can you remember how much it is? Because you talked to the guy at our
it's 449 euros.
Yeah, so about what an Arouge will set you back.
Yeah, but
the Arouge is a bit more expensive, but
480 is an Arouge. Yeah, okay. That is a hard one then, because for 480 you can get an Arouge for 440.
But back to the point, before you get a SimLab, that's just 40 euros cheaper and does tend to flex when you like really push it. Just get one of those RS seats because they don't flex when you push them.
Yep, and
they feel really comfy. I think we all sat in them, we all rocked them like idiots. And to be fair, it's kind of unfair of us, and I feel a bit bad about that we were walking past their fucking stand for like 2 days without even realizing. This is like a last minute edit we've just thrown in because I've just remembered.
Yep, I have to say this is probably just the right point to actually talk about this. We had also putting a big emphasis this time on seats and rigs all together. This has to do with the fact that
he needs to buy one, I need to buy one, a lot of you want to buy one.
Yes, and it's just the fundamental basis so that you can really utilize load cell, wheels, higher torque direct drives. So if this is what you're looking to, to step into that mid-range game of above 8 Newton meters, I would say up to there is probably considered entry level. Above 20 to 30 kilograms of braking force, you will need to get yourself at some point a proper solid rig, and this is either steel frame, which usually comes with a lot of drawbacks, little customization possibilities, and there is at the moment not really some proper solution that would be money to value. But then you've got these entry-level offerings of Track Racer, of SimLab, that are a possible choice, really. Now is only the thing. This is something where you perhaps can cut back a bit of money because you don't take this extra. You take the more baseline version, all good and fair, all square. If you don't weigh above 200 kilos, it will not matter if you take an 80 profile or 160 profile, in all honesty. That is just for pure feel or more mounting points. as long as your wheelbase then has enough sturdity in it, like you will not really have an issue. But when it comes to the seat, that's a whole different topic, because you can get a lot of shit for a lot of money,
And you can go ham on seats.
and at the same time, just sometimes the step up by 50 to 100 euros will get you something
all the
completely different.
All the difference.
Now, with all recommendations being said that the R seat is a awesome one, and there's your Rouge seats. Also gonna put you in some pictures either before this or right now. Always consider that if you've got the possibility to visit a sim racing shop, try them out. Try them out, because every body type is different. If you're a bit taller, smaller, and even your own liking matters. Do I want something that really wraps around me because I want to have that feel of sturdity to left and right? Do I want something more open, because for me it's important with my long arms to have them?
Do I need open shoulders because the shoulders rub and you don't have enough maneuverability? To put this into perspective, we sat in GT3 cars. We both got into the Aston just fine, because like the driver's seat was like more of our size. And then we tried to get into a McLaren. And I said try to, because we looked like the last donkeys of this fucking planet getting into and out of a McLaren 720S.
The seat was dimensioned for a person
the size of Lewis.
Yeah, 2/3 our height as it feels. And you could literally not get your ass into the seat. It felt like you were floating above the bottom. It was that.
You were
tight.
basically sitting on the bucket, not in it.
And that's part of the problem, because there is no standardized way of choosing your seat or measuring the stuff of the seat. So it will be a case of either you order, try out, send it back, which will be a frustrating process, guaranteed, or you drive to the nearest vendor and try them out. Has to do really with the fact that what do you like? If you don't have a bucket seat already, you should consider trying out. And if you do have one, even if that one for you now works and the kind of style, let's say you have a wrapping GT seat that comes around a lot more, you switch to the next brand and it will be a completely different experience.
Yeah, no manufacturer's the same. I mean, apart from some track racer kit and some sim lab kit that we found out.
Yes,
they are very similar, that you could say this is just rebranded stuff, but let's just keep it at that and move on to the next topic.
As we were just talking about seats, it's probably the right time also to talk about...
Guess what? More seats.
Yes. So stay seated for this one. Okay, that was poor. Nevertheless.
That hurt.
Saarveld. A name that most of you are familiar from real life racing, and
you usually see them on seatbelts or in Ferrari GT cars.
And they have now made, obviously, last year already the appearance into the sim racing world with really just high-end product line. They have a huge configurator for their sim rigs. We're going to show some pictures in as usual. They are, to me, beautiful. To Darius, not so much, but beauty is really in the eye of the beholder. If you cross out the beauty part, they are really pricey.
They're pricey, they're rigid.
You will not get any flex on this. I believe they said they had never any complaints after sales.
We've driven to 3 of the rigs. Three of the rigs in 3 different combinations. There's no flex noticeable whatsoever.
So if you're looking for a no compromise rig,
go for them.
Yeah. A full configuration of GT style rig with seats, single monitor mount, and everything costs you around 1,800 euros, which is not little, but I'm gonna say if you go to most other configurators, you might make it for 300 less. It's really, you pay the brand.
Yeah, you pay the brand, and also we're getting to the party piece of this, and to be fair, the party piece of the entire seat topic, going on to the Saarveld racing seats.
Holy shit, I have never had such a great experience within a racing seat. I didn't even know I needed one that bad. But what do we mean by this? So we are a lot of testing when it came to flex, because obviously you don't want to lose the feeling for your brakes and pedals throughout your seat. And they were legit the only seats together with a Rouge that would not give in, that would not at any point really move away. Obviously, you will always have, due to the nature of pivot points, have a bit of movement perhaps around the shoulders, but the down part, let's say below your rib cage, was 100% sturdy.
Yeah.
And what was more important, it's 100% ergonomical. Like, you get in there and you can just straight away tell, okay, 6-hour drive in this one.
No problem. No problem. It's like a couch chair, like falling into a couch chair. So I'm known for like falling asleep in endurances. I can do that, and that's a bucket seat. I don't need a reclinable seat for that. I can just lay back in my bucket and fall asleep. That's how good they are. Like, I was terrified at how good they are.
This obviously comes with a price tag. The usual seat with them is, I think, around 550 euros.
50, yeah.
And it should be fairly similar across the whole lineup. So they've got a formula seat that was super comfortable. The opinions on that one differ.
Not my thing. Not my thing.
Yeah, it's very open experience. So if you don't like to be confined by your seat, that is probably the one to go. But then you always have the problem of being really
technically you're lying down because it's a formula seat and it's basically shaped for that way. And if you want to drive it upright, your back's like arched a bit out or a bit in, and your like spinal cord is like turning that way, and I don't think that's good for the back for a long endurance ride, honestly.
Yeah, nice. That is a good point. But they did have two more on offer. One was the rally one.
Yeah, the rally one's like very, very constricting, like all around the side, because the bucket goes basically from here all the way up to here. So your entire shoulder, you're just sitting like that. So my shoulders are a bit too wide for that, and I was just sitting there like cramped like this, trying to drive a rally car with a round wheel and shifting at the same time.
But they do come in two sizes. So if you are above, I would say 1 meter 70, 1 meter 75, I would consider perhaps an L seat rather than the normal one. The normal one is just that notch too small for us.
I wouldn't say height is the issue. I'd say width is the issue.
Yeah, well, I can't really say what my width is, but if you consider yourself if you consider yourself to have wide shoulders,
if you're a bit on the fat side, it's also smart to get the bigger one. Like I am.
Take the L seat. The hips usually, or the arse usually, just
it's shoulders and hips most of the time.
But yeah, it was normally easy, possible and easy to sit in, but the shoulders then were constricted.
Now, time for the party piece that they've introduced. So not only do the seats have like removable padding that comes from factory, no, they have pulled out a party piece out of the normal gaming industry. In the normal gaming industry, you may have seen like secret seats or something like that. Seats that are made with memory foam on the armrests, on the lumbar, and on the back. And Sabelt took that into a sim seat. So basically you get 3 pads, one's for the back, that's 150 if I remember correctly.
Yep.
One for the lumbar, that's 50 euros, and one for your arse, for your bottom, that's 100, so legs included.
So what you can imagine around this is literally the racing approach to it, of getting your own mold for your seat.
Yeah, for racing. For 300 euros overall.
Yeah, so you would just activate this, put it in your seat, sit on top of it for 15 minutes, and after that you have a perfect imprint. And the way it was described is, it's obviously no cushion in that sense.
It's foam.
Yeah, no, well, but it's not really compressible, which surprises you because it feels hard. Mm-hmm. But once you put it in and you've got the weight distribution on every point individually at the same weight ratio, basically, it is the experience where you can sit in the longest, and it's just the most healthy for your spine, for your joints.
Because basically all the pressure gets like equalized over the entire seat.
Now to the good point, those pads are compatible with other seats as well, obviously. It's just a problem that once you use them on that seat, you will not be able to transfer it
to another seat.
But still, absolute game changer.
I mean, €300 for custom-made seat, technically, for a custom seat mold.
Also, and though it's more on the rumor side, they are considering bringing in active force feedback belt tensioners. But that is a big if.
But to be fair, they produce seat belts that only make sense. And also on the other rumor side, they're tempted to make more colors for each seat, because currently they're either available in black and blue only for the rally seat.
Yeah.
Yellow for the GT seat and red for the Formula seat. So you can't get the GT seat in red and you can't get the Formula seat in blue, for example. You can only get the corresponding color or black.
Anyways, I have to say my personal favorite when it comes to racing seats as of now is really Sabelt.
The P series.
Yep, it's the most pricey one that we could find.
Or is it the S series?
The S series is the GT one.
S series, I'm confusing them.
The S series, just as the GT seat offers, the most average experience.
Fall in and stay there.
Yeah, it does wrap around you, but not as much. So it's the middle ground between the rally seat and the Formula seat. Nice appeal, super fit, and while it's €100 more expensive than the rest of the fields that compares against it, like Eau Rouge or the R seat, it's still. It's one of those cases where you just have to sit down into the seats to know what you prefer. All three are easily recommendable. Perhaps even Eau Rouge is a bit more interesting for some of you because they do offer active cooling. But then there is a hefty price tag on that, because without, they cost around €480. As soon as cooling comes in, we're talking 700 plus.
Aye.
And if that is what you aim to spend, I'd rather get the Sabelt with the new foam cushions.
One thing we haven't talked about yet on the Sabelt is the entire seat flex, like the overall seat flex. There's zero seat flex on the entire seat. Like, this is, if you imagine a racing bucket, you imagine a thick black backside that goes when you tap it, and like it's sturdy as hell. You get that from the Sabelt seat. Like, it gave me the immediate desire trying to hit it with a sledgehammer, see if I can break it. That's how sturdy they look. Like, there was no flex in it. I could basically lean on Fengler's headrest while he was driving, and the seat was not flexing, despite two lard asses sitting in that chair, technically.
All right, so that was us thinking about Sabelt. No, we weren't paid. Sadly enough, we would have perhaps been. You
were considering taking one along till I told you have to pick it up and carry it on the train. So
yeah, it would have been a nice place to sit in on the train.
At least you would have.
Yeah, I would have. At least I would have had a seat.
Yeah, true. True.
All right, that's our wrap of Sabelt. Big recommendation. Check them out, and I would say on to the next one. So in the whole topic of new wheels that came out, also one manufacturer brought out a new one just recently. I think even just for the purpose of the Simracing Expo.
Nah, it's a bit earlier than that.
But it was in a very
close, very close. They started advertising it in a very usable manner for the Simracing Expo, and the company we're talking about is Asher Racing. Asher Racing. Let me get to the good stuff first, because this will be quick. And Asher Racing, we're really sorry, but this is just from what we saw and from our impressions. So
what the fuck? What the actual fuck is this supposed to be?
The nice thing about it, the Artura wheel looks like the Artura wheel in the McLaren. You can customize it with colors, and you can get a laser engraving of your own text or numbers or buttons that you want. And also the shifters are quite nice. The shifters are quite tactile. I like them. Now, on to the not so good part.
So another name that we didn't really have that much on our agenda was popping in when we were going on about ADAC Simracing.
Because it's just next to them.
Yeah, I think they belong both to the same company actually.
Ow.
But,
Shouldn't have said that.
but yeah, it's a bit diminishing.
It's a foreshadowing. Foreshadowing.
No, it's not actually, and that's the good part. So, track time was usually a name that we associated with very cheap steel frame rigs that were wobbly and not. It was not a name for quality, so to say. But that company, KW, bought up a former aluminium rig entrepreneur, and after the fight for 7 years, he has now made it that they will bring out a proper aluminium rig. And not only is it an aluminium rig, but
It's a hybrid rig.
yes, they have taken aluminium, steel, and aluminium. Now it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But it does make a price cut. That's point one. And they have utilized it in a very smart way because you've got this sandwich method in which they have the welded steel plate in the middle that also acts as an internal cable guide. And then you've got for all the mounts and stuff you want to fix upon it, the profiles, the aluminium profiles, top and bottom of it. And then as the pictures roll along, you can see that they've chosen a creative form that has perhaps would have had flex, but what you basically get on what you bought it price-wise, you have a 160 millimeter profile.
Yeah, technically you have a 160 millimeter profile because it's a 40 millimeter aluminium profile on the bottom, 40 millimeter like hollow steel in the middle, so like hollow steel quarter. For the cable runs and stuff like that, and then you've got another 40 millimeter aluminium that is all bolted together over the entire length of the rig. And the good thing is they also come with like outside like blends, so you cannot see the sandwich structure, so it looks flush on the outside.
What was a funny touch of it was the lighting. They had LED.
Oh yeah, the LED lighting. Milky plastic glass, acrylic, whatever.
Which, if you like, you give it a nice touch, really interesting approach. What was not so nice about it is that at the moment it's mandatory.
Yeah, you can't order them without.
Yeah, the Inventor is trying to get rid of that in the sense that you can pick it as an option. And a couple specs more. The small footprint, the overall length without the footplate being extended, obviously, is 120 millimeter. 200 millimeters.
120 centimeters, yes.
Yeah, on the base frame. So that's fairly short. Obviously, the seat extends out a little bit, and
the pedal plate does as well.
But that is still rather a compact approach. They are considering widening that at the moment. I said, like, if you can, keep it that way because it's a selling point for a bunch of people. And what's even more the selling point is the price tag. Because at the moment, we're relying on mandatory lightning of every becoming optional at some point. We're talking about 500 euros for a 160 millimeter rig. But for that price point, you usually get 80 millimeters at best. And now to the interesting part, if they get rid of the lightning, they might be able to push down the price by another 100 to 150 euros. So we are talking 400 to 350 for a 160 millimeter rig.
Hybrid rig.
Hybrid rig, yeah. But that's a really good approach. And they also integrate into the ecosystem, which means, I mean, the top end of track time is not that bad because they have focused on motion. Motion is still working, even on this Sim Racing Expo. It's
It's more of a gimmick than it is a feature.
It feels more like
It's nice to have, but if you want something real, it's most of the time it's more expensive than like Simracube active pedals.
It feels a bit like always an arcade.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So not something perhaps you're looking for right now, but as software progresses and perhaps the right settings come along. But you can go the upgrade path with it. So you can bolt on their motion systems after this. So you can start with a base rig and then, and they will make it modular. So you can pick and choose different frame mounts, you can pick and choose different wheel mounts, and so on and so on. Just the usual stuff that you would expect will come with it. And in difference to a lot of things, or a lot of vendors, they do have a release date.
That's true.
They want to launch this in March 25, so if you're currently setting up for it, let's wait some longer.
Give them a look, see how it is. If they actually release it, what's the price on it?
And track time. Oh wait, no, that was track race. Oh, never mind. I'm lost. It's getting late.
It's getting late, yeah. So you've got anything other on track time, or are we good to go?
It's good to go from my side. On to
the next topic.
So, there's always a different approach to how you perhaps sell the hardware and how do you market your software. And one of the companies that has gone a full-on new attempt of this is almost BMW-esque.
Yeah, I wouldn't say just BMW-esque, it's very BMW. I mean, after they've technically taken an approved set, which everyone likes and everyone drives, from the hoising belts and releasing their pedals, which are way more similar that you'd usually go for, we've got VRS releasing a new wheelbase using an oddly familiar subscription model to unlock the actual torque of the wheelbase.
There's really not too much to be said about it. I did not get my hands on them, did you?
No, I think Mike drove them. No, hold on. We have driven them. I think the one of the wheelbases we drove was the VRS True Force. I can't remember which one.
But that just tells you basically everything. It blended in. It was a direct drive.
Yeah, it was a direct drive. It drives directly.
And the whole topic of being able to purchase your license up to get instead of a lower torque, a higher torque on
I
your.
think you start on 8 or something like that, and then you can upgrade to 12, 15, 18,
25, I think.
Up to 25, basically. Using the subscription module from BMW for all the.
Yeah, but I think they didn't win subscription. They go for your lifetime license, but you need to unlock certain stages, which is a wicked way to do it. I mean, the idea in itself is understandable because the hardware in a lot of cases might be the same. It's just that the software is changed, and there's in that sense.
I think it will all be the same. There will just be a software unlocker for that. And to be honest, as some people know, the internet likes to find ways around something that has to be paid. So I don't see the value in that model they're going for, releasing the full wheelbase, buying the full wheelbase, just upgrading the torque when it's, depending on the software, easily done for someone who knows what they're doing. I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. It's an odd one.
Yeah, but
that's what they're doing.
That's what we have to say towards VRS.
Yeah.
VRS, there's
not a lot other we can say about them, other that their pedals are pedals and their direct drives are direct drive.
Yep. So
on to the next one. Fanatec 1.
Yeah, that one is very interesting.
Yeah, the odd one out, even though you wouldn't expect them.
So it was probably the most visited booth.
Oh yeah. The run-up for the Fanatec booth was like gigantic.
So you heard it.
Like
is
massive queues.
Fanatec. There is a limited time we spend on there, really. there was not too many.
I mean, to be fair, we disregarded Fanatec bringing anything new given their current or like recent financial circumstances with the hostile takeover by Corsair and what happened to Yakamaya and all of that shit. And they haven't brought out anything new since I think the WRC wheel or the Club Sport DD wheelbase. I can't really remember what was first. I think the wheel was first and then the wheelbase came along. And so we've kind of disregarded it for all the time because we didn't think there was anything new, but apparently there were 2 new things which were branded under Corsair and will be rebranded as Fanatec. For one, a new handbrake which uses a load cell, so maybe look that up on the Vroom channel because they've covered it, and we basically just completely dropped out. We didn't even pay too much attention on that, so that's an issue from our front. And they've brought something old because everyone knows that they've brought the Bentley wheel again, and it still looks the same.
Yeah, but which is now being it's now finalized. I think you can now finally buy it. Also, they brought
After
along
4 years of teasing, I think.
Yeah, no, the official reveal was last year on Simracing Expo. But all this aside, they obviously then had the Corsair,
the rig,
that has been rebranded to Fanatec. It's a steel frame rig that we also just had outside information on this one. Traction did review a bit.
Yeah.
So you can look that one up.
Pay from a channel chat for that one, or look at Traction. They've covered everything that Fanatec brought. That's not like standard run of the mill or.
But they have not really pushed for anything really innovative. So the time on there is very limited in terms of wheelbases. There's nothing new. And they announced a change in software because it's going to be all integrated into the Corsair software, something.
Yeah.
So
it's a bit of a blurb, a bit of a mystery, but given the hostile takeover from Corsair, that was to be expected, to be honest.
Yeah. So more information is probably on the named channels. For us, that is a wrap up of Fanatec.
A lot of people, but not a lot of new stuff.
Yep. All right.
On to the next one.
So, one of the lower requests, actually, which comes in as a surprise, but I did not have the same understanding of this company from when I arrived at Sim Expo until I touched the product, spoke to their head of sales, I think he was.
No, he's the actual mastermind behind how all that works. His wife is the sales expert. He just does all.
She is the CEO. And
he's just doing all the tinkering. He's doing all the building and designing.
So who we're talking about is GSI.
So
Simracing
we spoke to Mr. and Mrs. Gomez themselves. We even have a longer interview with Mr. Gomez where he talks about all of the passion and all of the work that comes into their products, and I'd really recommend watching that. Sorry for the shoddy camera work. That was me, and you can't see me smiling behind the camera because we got to touch their wheels, and I also got the honor of driving their wheels. And people who know me, I'm one of the guys that wants to see stuff from GSI because I think they're still top of the line market from all that high-end wheels. So I got to this with some expectation to the brand, but like holding, touching and clicking through every button, every switch on the Hyper P1 wheel actually cemented that company as something of value I haven't touched till that point in sim racing. Like, you get tactile buttons and shifters that you don't get anywhere else. There's like maybe one shift in the entire expo that came close to the shifters but did not reach them. The analog pedals are great. The quality and all the play in the buttons, there's literally no play. All of the rotary and thumb encoders are exactly the tightness and crispness they need to be for good racing with gloves. They're not too heavy, they're not too light, they're just on point. it feels like ridiculous. I mean, Fengler's touched them as well, and it's something different.
It gives you an understanding of why certain wheels are at a certain price and what high-end really means, because you can tell that there has been a lot of thought not only involved into, as Gomez explained himself, the amount of tactile feedback you get, but also just the general ergonomics of holding these in your hands is absolutely amazing. And on top of that, you talked about the Hyper P1, and you would think, okay, if you now step down from basically what is their highest level product, also, by the way, the second most selling, I think the next one more selling is just basically Hyper P1 version without a screen.
Yeah.
But that is the one, like, just imagine that the second most expensive wheel is the one that sells the most. But if you step it down a few notches, and Gomez will explain this later on in more depth, as Darius said in the interview, you're not degrading in quality, you're not degrading in feel. It's literally just a different layout. Perhaps a few less buttons.
Maybe most of the time no screen.
Yeah, but all this comes with the same amount of tactile feedback
and quality
and sturdiness. Because keep this in mind, this is milled aluminium, like full aluminium cast. No, it's a full aluminium.
It's full aluminium billet with an entire forged carbon front plate.
Yep. So it's absolutely completely different story. This is a lifetime buy, like, not because of the price. Obviously, yes, the price is high, but the money you pay, you have the guarantee to have something that outlives you.
Yeah,
this is.
Mr. Gomez himself said that one of his goals with his wheels is that, which is why you, and I've spoke to one of the employees of GSI, you don't get a lot of discounts from them because there's not a lot of price they can actually shave off, because the quality standard of the wheel is so high. I haven't seen anything other than the Simrep Corsair, which Corsair Cosworth, which is 12,000 euros. 12,000 euros, half a car. Keep that in mind. And for like 1,900 without tax, fully kitted, we're talking at a wheel where everything is in the place where it should be. There's no unnecessary stuff. Everything is marked. Everything is perfectly reachable, with short fingers, with long fingers, with fat fingers. Everything has its place, everything has its function. The only downside of the wheel, in my opinion, I don't see it as a downside, but some may see it as a downside. The wheel is rather heavy for the size there is. It's a 300 mil or 310, something like that in the formula, and it's rather heavy for all that it is, but given it's a billet aluminium and not full carbon fiber construction, it's gonna be a bit heavier. But this gives you the purpose or the possibility of driving it with lower newton meters and still get a good feedback from it, because the weight of the wheel adds to that.
Yeah, well, it does make it a bit slower in response, but then again, you don't bolt a 2,000 euro wheel onto a 5 newton meter base.
Yeah.
You will be certainly at a higher torque, and it will not impact the performance really that much. It's phenomenal. Like, this is legit the
best wheel,
on the market.
Like wheel you can bolt on the market, if you ask me. I mean, ask Fengler how my mood changed when I drove that. They even abandoned me after 5 minutes and just kept on driving, because this was literally heaven. I've been wanting one of those for all the times, and now that I've picked up one, I've looked at Mr. Gomez and I've told him, yeah, you've got a customer for next year. I can't afford it this year, but I really want to have one of those. It's like you simp over it because you see it in reviews, and that tell you that people tell you how good they are, how great they are, how good the quality is, and then you get to touch one and it becomes a reality.
The best words you can put this on is the words of Mr. Gomez himself, and that is, you don't understand it until you had it in hand. So don't buy our words on it. Perhaps you've got the chance to get your hands on one of the wheels. And I would say the lowest price was somewhere around 800 euros for the entry
Yeah,
level wheel.
800 euros for the entry. Yeah.
And that is basically it's not high in pricing, but it's high in quality on a top mid range wheel.
Yeah, it's basically like the shape and the button numbers of the Moser KS, basically. Just at twice the price, but also a really increased amount of quality.
Yep.
And while we're on that, we're just going to do a short sideline on another manufacturer, which is on good terms with our friends from GSI, which would be Bavarian Simtech. That's not requested, but that's something that comes from Germany, from Bavaria, to be fair, it's in the name. And they build wheels which are equal in quality and standard to the GSI. And some would prefer the Bavarian Simtech because they're a bit lighter, but to be fair, they're also a bit more expensive. Originate in Germany, that's why, but their wheels are also very, very nice. So overall, just about like talking in experience, because GSI have been doing this for a long time now. I think like 5 or 6 years or something like that.
Yeah, Bavarian Simtech is a bit.
Bavarian Simtech is very new to this, especially like producing high-end wheels. I mean, they've got one that's without a screen, and that's expensive, and their screened one is a bit more expensive than a Hyper P1, just a little bit, but I put them on the same quality standard. Basically, they cover the same market, and it's all up to taste. How you like your wheel to look, how you like the ergonomical shape and stuff like that. The Hyper P1 looks a bit like the Red Bull Formula One wheel as the the Alpha. Do they call it Alpha or the Omega? I think it's the Omega.
Not the Omega, yeah.
Yeah, the Omega Pro from Bavarian Simtech looks like the W15's wheel. So that's a bit of a like taste thing. But
so yeah, overall, if you're hovering in between those both, you can take any. This is really about preference, perhaps on certain looks, things, button placements.
But overall, I think from all the wheel manufacturers we got to touch or drive, GSI has absolutely planted the flag like nobody else could. Everyone was doing that good and lacking in some department. And the only thing you could find lacking in GSR's department is that they are very expensive, because you pay what you get. And the other thing is, what people might not like is the overall weight of the wheel.
Yeah, just as a final word, because to sum up, well, I do agree, it's really the best wheel. And if you don't agree, because you say like, oh, we're Bavarian Simtech, I might be really down to a religious belief to go either way.
Yeah.
Really, you can't do something wrong.
ADAC or Simracube, Fanatec or Moser, Bavarian Simtech or GSI is basically the same thing. Heusingveld, ADAC.
So yeah, there you have it.
Yeah.
If you want to watch the interview, on to the next one. So Soltec. It was not a name that was requested. It was Ike who was pushing us like, go to this booth. No, it was Cody.
Yeah.
Cody from Rum Rum was like, go to this booth, you will be
blown away.
And we were.
Yeah.
Like, we sat at the wheel topic was
Were you there first? No, I went first.
You went first, you told me.
They were standing at the ADAC booth, and the Soltec booth was just straight out of the ADAC booth. So I went over there, touched the wheels, and one of the employees approached me and basically talked me through everything. And like, I held the wheel, I pressed all the buttons, and I looked at it, felt all the surfacing and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, if I wouldn't have had the Bavarian Simtech Omega or the GSI Hyper P1 in hand before, I'd say that was the best wheel. Like, it's quality-wise, it's amazing. It's amazing, and you want to know the best thing about it?
Just wait a little bit.
Yeah, just wait that little bit.
Just
okay.
Wait a little bit. So, I came over, had the same experience.
So basically, I came over and talked to him like, go look at this, it's amazing.
Because at this point, we were just really had it in hand, like you just really had it in hand and pressed some buttons. I walked over, tested it out, crisp and nice shifters, and a phenomenal clutch. Like the UC linear spring, you can tell you just have this nice and constant build, very good. And then we got into talks with one of the guys, and he was like, "Oh, you quite aware about the features that we have?" I'm like, no. What exactly are you talking about? So their aim is to provide the best quality for a very competitive price, which they do because they are almost up there with GSI and Bavarian Simtech. Not quite, but almost. And
Quality-wise, not price-wise. We're getting to the price.
But the price was for their flagship, which is the Spectre XL or Sector.
The Sec XL. So it's basically an abbreviation of Sector, and there's the LT, which is without the screen, and then there's the XL with the screen.
And the XL with the screen comes at 1,500 euros before tax. Well, all the wheel prices have been so far before tax. And the one without the screen, which is their best-selling one, is 1,200. Now, 1,200 for that amount of quality is insane, but when you get the screen one, it gets more interesting even. How so, you ask? Easy. SimHub is obviously the way to connect the wheel. Now, it might be a bit annoying to tap out of the game and being forced, to change what you need to change. And obviously, yeah, you can create profiles, blah, 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 yeah. But they went the full route. You do not need to set the wheel up in the way that you need to build the display and then, pick and choose your own likings. You can still do that if you want to, no problem. It comes plug-in ready, so they give you the data for it as well. So SimHub can already load up straight away.
It's got like 20 presets. It's ridiculous.
And
it's really ridiculous.
It's really just plug it on and it's ready to go. And now here comes the sweet part, and that was the display usage, because you could press a button to access SimHub within the display. Sounds like a redundant feature? No, because in there you had all the settings that you could, like, best example, you take a different car, like you drive a GT3 in ACC and then switch to the M2, and you do have a different rev span.
Or basically you switch to a Formula One car and you now need a bar that displays your energy.
And you can do this with a click of a few buttons, go into the menu, change it around, and that's not even the end of it.
Oh, this gets really crazy. So he just got the tech data. I got to drive it because one of the employees told me about the trick. So as you might know, Formula One wheels have like 2 buttons on the top arches on the back side. So they've got that as well. And they are actually working as inputs. So the top left button applies 20% of the brake without you actually braking. So technically you're holding your brakes. You could use that to heat up your tires or brake mid-corner, for example, and just all of that without touching the brakes. So if you brake, have that button on and get off the brake, you get a little notification in the dash, get off the brake, it will stay at 20%. The other side is a 100% throttle button. So if you're lazy or if you're driving in an endurance and you want to keep your foot off the pedal for once, just to like relax for a bit down the Mistral or down Monza's main straight, you just push that button and just pull your foot off the pedal and it will still be at 100%. Push the button again, throttles off.
Let's call it probably the Duttinger. Duttinger button.
Yeah, the Duttinger button, basically.
And this is not all. What you also told me is the rotary encoders.
Yeah, now it gets crazy. So their rotary encoders, their thumb encoders, are actually mapped to more than one setting. He told me, the guy that basically watched over me while I was driving it, told me that mid-drive, he was like, yeah, if you press the rotary encoders, so basically the ones in the thumb cavity, if you press them, or like press them, whatever, how you press them, it switches the predefined settings. So this one was predefined on the left side, TC1 and TC2, and on the right side, brake bias and differential. So if you are on TC1 in the setting, push it in, then you are on the TC2 setting. Push it in again, you are on the TC1 setting. Other side with brake bias and differential is the same. It's ridiculous. It has a flasher button, or the flasher button in the programming flashes when you flash it. you can turn on night mode with a button combination of like a middle menu button and another button. You can turn on night mode and the light goes off. You can switch the lighting. You can switch the lighting pattern without getting out of your rig. You can do all of that while you're in the rig and holding the wheel.
And the wheel is capable of having 10 pre-programmed car presets in there. So with the switch of with the click of a button, you can just rotate through. If you've got perhaps one for Formula cars, one for GT3s, one for club sport cars, there's a really easy way through. It's insane. They have, as far as I'm concerned, 72 mappable buttons, and they do serve multiple functions at a time because of the combination of being able to click the rotaries and so on and so on. So in terms of functionality, this is a whole new level.
We said when we discussed the wheel, because we're both blown away by it. I was so blown away. I talked to the representative and I was like, if I would have the money with me right now, I would take one with me. That's how good it is. I desperately want a GSI, but really desperately want a Hyper P1. But this one, given how it is, if I would have the money without shipping 1,400, this is what you get, I would have taken it, definitely. Like, we were all so blown away by how good this wheel actually is. It's ridiculous. The only thing is, it's like an F14 Tomcat and DCS. You need a fucking manual to use it. It's like really complicated to use. If someone guides you through it, it's easy, but figuring all of that out by yourself without a manual, I picture that a very hard thing.
So to conclude this, this was easily the biggest surprise of the expo.
Yeah.
And it is at the same time, I want to say, the best bang for the buck wheel out of
high-end wheel.
Out of the entry and mid-range. It depends, like the 1,200.
It's not entry and mid-range. It's a high-end wheel.
No. What I say, like it's not in the entry range. It's not in the mid-range. Like, cross that out when it comes to bang for buck.
Yeah.
But if you want to go full ham and buy that one wheel that will serve you until you part from sim racing, this is the one. Like,
if you want a bang for your buck solution on a high-end wheel and you don't want to pay $2,000 for a Hyper P1 or $2,500 for a Bavarian Simtech or a Cube Controls or whatever, you go for that one.
Don't get me wrong, a GSI is still just a little bit more flushed out.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
The Soltec, Spectre, LTR XL do not feel like a compromise on
also
point.
the ideas alone of like double binding the rotaries is what blew me away, because none of the other companies that have been around building wheels for X amount of years, no Cube Controls, no Asher Racing, no GSI, no Bavarian Simtech, no one's ever thought of that. And that's what I loved about that wheel, that they bring something actually new and innovative to the table without basically reinventing the wheel.
All right, yeah. That's a wrap of Soltec.
Yeah, and now to the outro, I guess.
The outro.
Yeah, we're back with the outro. So, just as a small, basically, talk of this podcast video-esque report documentary thingy that we're doing here in a kitchen that looks like we're in a married couple at the age of 80, or different story. So just from all of the experience we got, like on the entire, I'd say, staff or people involved in the Sim Racing Expo, I'd say it's been my first time, and I can definitely say, Fengler said it's bigger than last year, so the Brum Brum crew said it was bigger than last year. But honestly, like, all the people there, we all share the same hobby. Like, honestly, nobody's a cunt. It's
very familiar.
It's very familiar. Nobody's a cunt. Everyone's nice. If you ask someone that you have never seen in your life, they will talk with you. You can like talk with them for hours because we all share the same stupid hobby of driving virtual cars in virtual circles. It's ridiculous. Even we've met some, like, how many esport drivers have we met? 8?
No, that doesn't even, like, we didn't manage to take pictures with
we
each
made,
and
we
every
made
single one of them. But YouTube royalty, esports royalty, probably, you name it, they were all there. They literally were all there.
We both have a photo with Jardier. We both have a photo with Niels Naujux, with Sasha Vassner. He's got a photo with Noah Eder, and like all of the big YouTube sim review guys that you can think of. And all of them are the nicest people about them. Nobody's brushing you off like sod off, I've done enough photos. Everyone's happy to do photos with you, do interviews with you, just chat, even chat shit with you.
Yeah,
I mean, Fengler's talked shit with Jardier for like half an hour, and after that he talked half an hour with Jardier's admin.
It's everybody's very, very approachable. And if you're considering to come next year, I can really just recommend. We had a nice meetup with Tobias and with Mike, obviously Ike as well. We would love to have you here the next time. It would be really nice to have you representing with a bigger crew. It's a phenomenal testing opportunity, especially if you can arrive on Friday. You just have so much more possibilities to get in the rigs, test out different sim, test out different equipment generally. It's hard to explain to someone until you arrive, but if you have anything that you're potentially looking to, it's the best €6 you can invest upon trying stuff out, and at the same time, it's just a nice event to catch up as a community, and that spans far beyond era.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, we both feel like a crooked old man after this because our bodies are completely giving up after those 2 days of running around like madmen, arriving here on a train, not knowing how Dortmund works or where the fuck we are. But like, all of that experience was absolutely worth it. And I'd like to give one special shout out to an amazing man that does amazing things for the sim racing community here in Germany. And that would be Andre, the owner of Rennwelten, who's an amazing guy, an amazing personality, great guy to be around. We chatted for hours, and he's an absolutely nice bloke. Shoved me into an RA and laughed at me when I couldn't get out of it again because the roll cage was in the way. Absolutely great bloke. I love him to bits, and I thank him for the opportunity of speaking to him and like getting to know how Rennwelten works and how he wants to transform racing into something that's for everybody and not just for like the entitled people that have a lot of money in motorsport, like the top 1% or something like that. I really love that about Andre. So Andre, thank you again. Dankeschön. Ich liebe dich, bester Mann.
So yeah, obviously continues on with a lot of people that we touched upon. The traction guys, Griff Finder. It was a very, very welcoming culture, and it's an event to go to. It was critical acclaimed for a while because of the bankruptcy, but it's very nice to see it grow. All the exhibitors take it fairly serious, and your feedback that's taken, which is something that you want to think, because you are not the esports type quick racer and your opinion doesn't matter. No, it's the absolute different.
You're a slow idiot with too much money and not enough speed.
Yeah, but the opposite is the case. Like they really do care about you. They take in your feedback, and at times they then even give out a little bit of extra content, so to say, just some more information.
If you get to know them, they might drop a useful info to you more than they would if you don't talk to them, don't get to know them. And I think like after this week, we know someone from like nearly every company booth we've visited. We are going to visit next year and talk to them again and just build connections and stuff like that. It's really, really beautiful thing. I'm normally not one for like masses of people and talking a lot of people, or talking about two people, but to be fair, I quite enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. This was really good.
So yeah, to conclude, it was an amazing weekend. We hope that you could take some away from this podcast. It will be a lot of cutting work. It was a lot of work to get the content together.
I'd like to call it a shotcast.
Yeah, it was already a lot of work just to get all the content, all the gear. But I hope it helps you, or you could find it interesting. And yeah, can't wait to race with you again, guys.
Yeah, that's all of us. Have a good rest of your off season, boys. Enjoy watching this. We'll see. We'll hear each other in the near future.